Greetings and salutations. This is the Adjutant, and today I want to talk to you about something that most veterans completely misunderstand, and that is VA benefits. Because for many veterans, VA benefits are viewed as survival tools, a disability check, health care, maybe even a home loan. And that's it. What if I told you something veterans quietly use VA benefits as one of the most powerful long-term wealth building systems available in America? No scams, no fraud, no manipulation. I'm talking about properly understanding all the things as it relates to VA benefits. I want to talk to you about something that most veterans completely misunderstand: VA benefits. Because for many veterans, VA benefits are viewed as survival tools, a disability check, healthcare, maybe even a home loan, and that's it. But what if I told you some veterans quietly use VA benefits as one of the most powerful long-term wealth building systems available in America? Not scams, not fraud, not manipulation. I'm talking about properly understanding and strategically using the benefits you already earn through sacrifice and service. And the truth is, some veterans making moderate income are building more long-term stability than civilians making significantly more money. Why? Because they understand something that most people do not. Wealth is not only about income, it is also about reducing expenses, protecting stability, avoiding catastrophic financial loss, and creating predictable systems that allow you to breathe. And most veterans were never taught this. Nobody set us down during transition assistance programs and said, here's how to use your benefits to create long-term peace. Nobody explained how tax-free income changes financial math. Nobody explained how healthcare protection preserves wealth. Nobody explained how the VA home loan can actually accelerate home ownership. Nobody explained how layered retirement income can create enormous stability later in life. Most veterans just receive benefits and continue struggling financially anyway. And I want to help change that, because after decades of military service, federal law, and VA adjudication, I have seen something over and over again. The veterans who thrive financially are usually not the ones chasing flashy lifestyle. They're the ones who quietly build stable foundations, and that is what I want to talk to you about today. Now, before we begin, let me make something very clear. This video is not financial advice. And this video is not encouraging anyone to exaggerate disabilities or manipulate the VA system. Absolutely not. These benefits were earned through sacrifice, and they should be approached honorably. What I'm talking about today is stewardship, using what you earned wisely, because many veterans paid for these benefits with deployments, injuries, stress, trauma, broken sleep, missed birthdays, failed marriages, and years away from home. So don't waste what you earn. Now let's talk about this. One of the biggest mistakes veterans make is thinking too small. And I say that respectfully. Many veterans only think month to month. How do I survive? How do I pay bills? How do I get through this year? But wealth is often built through long-term strategic thinking. And sometimes wealth is not about making dramatically more money. Sometimes wealth comes from eliminating major expenses, reducing risk, avoiding financial destruction, and creating systems that lower pressure over time. Now, for example, if one person earns $200,000 a year, but has crushing healthcare expenses, student loan, high taxes, and financial instability, while another person earns less, but has tax advantages, healthcare protection, retirement stability, and lower debt, the second person may actually build more sustainable wealth. And this is where many veterans miss the opportunity, because VA benefits are not simply compensation. They are strategic financial tools. Now, let's start with something most people do not fully appreciate: tax-free income. This matters more than what people realize, especially when you've been talking about higher disability ratings. Now, I know this conversation sometimes make people uncomfortable, okay? But facts are facts. Tax-free income changes financial math of your entire life. Now, let me explain what I mean, folks, okay? Let me explain what I mean. If a veteran receives $4,000 per month tax-free, that is not the same thing as civilians earning $4,000 taxable. It's not even close, because taxable income get reduced through federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, medical care, and other deductions, meaning a civilian may need to earn substantially more money to create the usable same cash flow. That matters. And over 20, 30, 40 years, the difference becomes enormous. Now combine that with another reality. VA disability compensation is generally stable, predictable, protected, and during economic downturn, that stability matters. Because recessions happen, layoffs happen, corporate restructuring happens, but a stable source of tax-free income can dramatically reduce panic, and panic destroys financial decision-making. Now, you know what people do when they panic financially? They cash out retirement accounts. They sell investments at the wrong time. They drown in credit card debt. They make desperate decisions, but stability creates options. And options, folks, create peace. All right? Now, let's move into one of the greatest financial tools many veterans have available, and that's the VA home loan. And honestly, I think many veterans dramatically underestimate how powerful this benefit really is. The ability to purchase a home with no down payment is massive, especially in modern America, because one of the biggest obstacles for younger families today is simply getting into the housing market. Down payments destroy people. $20,000, $40,000, $60,000, sometimes even more. And while civilians are spending years trying to save for down payments, many veterans have an opportunity to enter ownership early. And that matters because time matters, equity matters, ownership matters, right? Now, let me say something very carefully, folks, okay? Now, a home is not automatically wealth. People misunderstand that. A house can absolutely become a financial burden if purchased irresponsibly. But strategic ownership over long periods of time can become extremely powerful, especially when veterans avoid PMI, all right? Preserves cash reserves and buy within their means. And some veterans go even further. Some purchase duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. They live in one unit while tenants help offset the mortgage. That strategy has quietly built wealth for many veterans over time. Not overnight, not Instagram wealth, real wealth. That kind built slowly through discipline, patience, and many veterans never realize this opportunity exists. Now, let's discuss another area that people underestimate, all right? And that is healthcare. Civilian healthcare costs can absolutely destroy wealth. One surgery, one chronic illness, one major medical event, and suddenly people are drowning financially. Medical debt has crushed countless families in America, but healthcare protection matters, especially as people age, especially in retirement, especially when prescription costs are rising. And veterans who have strong VA healthcare access or layered coverage through TRICARE and VA systems often possess a form of financial protection many civilians do not fully appreciate. Because if you are not constantly terrified of medical catastrophic emergencies, you can invest more confidently. You can save more consistently. You can sleep better. And peace matters. You know, people sometimes laugh when older individuals talk about peace. But once you lived long enough, you realize peace is one of the greatest forms of wealth on earth. Now let's move into education benefits. The GI Bill alone has changed the trajectory of countless families. Education debt destroys financial momentum for many young Americans. People graduate already drowning, and it can take decades to recover. But veterans who properly use education benefits or transfer benefits strategically can completely change the future of their families. Now, imagine graduating debt-free. Imagine entering a profession without crushing student loan debt. Imagine certifications and career advancement or entrepreneurship without enormous financial burden. That matters. Sometimes the greatest transfer is not giving your children money. Sometimes it's helping them avoid debt in the first place. And veterans who understand this can create generational impact. Now, let's talk about layered income streams, all right? This is something I personally believe more people should understand. One of the greatest forms of financial stability is diversified income, meaning that not depending entirely on one source. Now, obviously, every situation is different, but many veterans eventually develop layered systems: military retirement, VA compensation, Social Security, TSP, investment, part-time counseling, YouTube development, rental income. And what happens is the pressure begins to reduce. Now, again, that is usually not flashy wealth. That is stable wealth. And stable wealth is often far more powerful than flashy wealth, because the goal is not to impress strangers. The goal is to build a life where panic no longer controls you. Now, unfortunately, many veterans never fully capitalize on these opportunities. And let's talk honestly about why. That's lifestyle inflation, vehicle debt, poor financial literacy, emotional spending, trying to impress people, buying liabilities instead of assets, and sometimes trauma-driven decision-making. You know, a lot of veterans carry emotional wounds they never properly addressed. And sometimes people spend emotionally because they're trying to fill internal emptiness. I've seen this for years. Expensive vehicles, constant spending, impulse purchases, status chasing. Meanwhile, they never build real security, and eventually time catches up. Now, listen carefully to me here. Benefits are tools. Tools only matter if you build something with them. A hammer sitting in the garage builds nothing. And VA benefits sitting inside an undisciplined financial life will not automatically create peace. You still need discipline, wisdom, discernment, strategy, and patience. Now I want to shift into something deeper before we close, and that's mindset. Because ultimately, this conversation is bigger than money. Many veterans spent years surviving deployments, separation, stress, pain, disappointment, loss, and sometimes after that, people continue living in survival mode financially, always afraid, always reacting, always overwhelmed. But eventually there has to be a shift from survival to stewardship. Now, what do I mean by stewardship? I mean recognizing I suffered for these benefits. I sacrificed for these benefits. So now I need to use them wisely, not recklessly, not emotionally, but wisely. Build stability, protect your future, reduce unnecessary debt, create peace for your children, create peace for yourself. And understand this, wealth is not always luxury. Sometimes wealth is simply sleeping peacefully, not fearing medical bankruptcy, not panicking every month, and knowing your family will be okay. That matters, especially as you get older, especially after military service, especially after carrying stress for decades. And I think many veterans deserve more peace than they currently have. But peace requires strategy. Now, before I close, I want to say something directly to the younger veterans watching this. Do not wait 20 years to become financially intentional. Do not assume you have unlimited time. And please do not build a lifestyle entirely around compensation. Build systems, build assets, build stability. Think long term, because small, disciplined decisions repeated over years can completely transform your future. Now, if this video has helped you, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because my goal here is simple. I want to help veterans, service members, and military families build wiser lives, not just financially, but emotionally, strategically, and spiritually as well. And so there you have it. I hope this has been helpful. This is the Adjutant, and I'll see you in the next one. I wish you all blessings and blessings. Shalom.